Hey, have you ever traveled somewhere that it was like a exciting time for you? Maybe it was like a destination place you've been waiting to go and you finally got a chance to go. Or maybe if you're a sports person, you finally got to go to that big championship or whatever it was, and you finally got to go see that stadium you've never seen before. How many of you ever done something like that? You had a big trip and you were like, I've been waiting for this my whole life. You finally got there, you saw it, you took pictures, you're excited. You get back home and you go to tell some of your friends and you're explaining it to them what happened, and you can tell they're just not getting it. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Like you're in the middle of it, you won't believe it, and this was here, and it was so big, and the lights, and blah, blah, and they're like, yeah? All right, where are we eating lunch at? You're like, are you kidding me? Like, no, you don't get it. Like, it was phenomenal. It was this, and then, and then you even like pull your phone out, and you're showing them pictures, and you're like, that doesn't even do it justice. That picture is not as good as it was cool when I took the picture. But now you're looking at it and you're going, yeah, I mean, it looks just like a building. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody ever been there? You know, it reminds me of a time we got a chance. It was probably 3 years ago. Anybody ever been to the Grand Ole Opry before? Anybody? Yeah, I got a picture right here of us. We got to go to the Grand Ole Opry, and that's Meredith and I. And that particular night, that was I think our first time at the Grand Ole Opry, and we got to see Bethel music that night. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't a concert. We had 3 hours of a worship service. I mean, it was a 3-hour church service is what happened that night in the Grand Ole Opry. Now, I can start to tell you about it, but you weren't there. You weren't there. So you'd be like, oh, yeah, I've been to a concert before. I listen to Bethel music on KHIS every day. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's so what? It's music. You went to a concert. I've been to the Grand Ole Opry. So what was so special? You weren't there. You didn't see the people get healed that I watched get healed. Like, you didn't see that. And I can tell you about it, and still it's not the same unless you're there. It's kind of like the same time, probably 3 or 4 years ago, Meredith had a business trip she had to go on in D.C., and we went to D.C. I tagged along. Hallelujah. And And I remember one day she got out a little bit early and we walked down, which was a very long walk, and it was in July. I don't recommend you do that in Washington, D.C. in July. But that's the Lincoln Memorial right there. And I remember walking in all these places, and I'm taking pictures. The Washington Monument, the White House. I'm like, we're taking all these pictures. And even I got home and I'm looking at them and I'm going, these pictures don't do it justice. There's so much history that has happened here. And as I would show people the pictures, and I could tell they're just like, yeah, I've seen that picture before. But you haven't been there. It's different when you're there. Psalm 66, verse 5. Come and see what our God has done. What awesome miracles he performs for people. This is our key text for this series. And we're going to look in the Gospel of John. It's an interesting gospel. Let's first start there. Gospel. Pastor Justin, what are you talking about? What's a gospel? Well, a gospel is a first-hand account of the life of Jesus, is what a gospel is. Well, why were the Gospels written? Good question. Thank you for asking. The Gospels were written so that you and I would come and see Jesus. We need to come and see Jesus, not just hear about Jesus. You don't need to just take somebody's word about Jesus. You need to come and see Jesus. So these gospel writers, they saw Jesus. They were there when these things happened. They wrote it down. They wrote as much as they could down. But there's even more stuff that he did. They couldn't even write it down. John says at the very end of his gospel in John 21:25, Jesus also did many other things. If they were all written down, I suppose the whole world could not contain the books that would be written. And so we have 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which reminds me of a song. I was 7 years old right here in Sikeston, Missouri. I went to Vacation Bible School at a church right here, just down the road. And they taught me this song. If you know it, please sing along with me. It said, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John heard good news and they passed it on. Listen and learn, look and see. The gospel book is for you and me. Good news. The gospel brings good news. Yell it. Good news. Good news. The gospel. Don't make me break it down, y'all. Come on. Remix. But that's when I learned at 7 years old, I learned that there were 4 Gospels. In fact, I think the first time I read the Bible, I thought, Jesus just keeps dying. Like, what's happening right now? Every book, he dies. Did you read another one? He died again. Like, how many times is this guy going to die? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And in fact, I started to read a little bit more, and I figured out, the 3 of them are called the Synoptic Gospels. What does that mean? That's Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're synoptic. What's that mean? It means they're really similar, but they're not the same. Right? There's similar stories. Not all of them are the same stories, but they have some similar stories, different points of view, but they're not the same. So you got Matthew, Mark, and Luke are the synoptic gospels. But then we have John. In fact, if we're new to meeting each other and you're like, I want to get into the Bible, one of the first things I tell you to do is go read John. The Gospel of John is 90% unique from the other 3 Gospels. It's a little more theological than the other 3. Allegorical. It really looks into the private ministry of Jesus. It gives us a clear picture of his divinity and the deity of Jesus. John is very clear that this is the one we've been waiting for. He is the Messiah. He is from God and he is God. And if you go back to the beginning of John chapter 1, you're going to notice he's trying to make it very clear to anybody who's reading this that this is the one who is fulfilling the prophecies in the Old Testament. Because they were all waiting. They were waiting for the one who is responsible for, number 1, creation. Who is responsible for creation? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Don't get it mixed up. Don't go read a science book because that's wrong. In the beginning, God created the heavens. And if you disagree with me, come talk to me after the service, okay? I'd be happy to talk to you. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, then John wrote this in John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, that's Jesus, and the Word was God, that's Jesus. He was in the beginning with God, and all things are made through Jesus, and without Jesus, nothing was made that was made. They were also waiting about this covenant. If you read in the Old Testament, Genesis 12:2, what are you talking about? I will make you a great nation. He's talking to Abraham. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless you to be a blessing. And then John chapter 1, verse 4, in him, it's in Jesus, was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light, Jesus, shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. See, what John is talking about is there's a new covenant. The old one is being fulfilled through Jesus. It's the light that has come. And the darkness that people are walking in is going to be illuminated because the Messiah is here. They're also looking for deliverance. Exodus chapter 3, 7 and 8. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrow. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up from the land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Then John said this in chapter 1, verse 10. He, Jesus, was in the world. He came. You want deliverance? He was in the world, and the world was made through him. He came in the world that he actually created, and the world did not know him. The deliverer came, and they didn't even know who he was. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God. And if you accept him today, you accept the deliverance out of the situation that you're in, and now you can be known as a child of God. The fourth thing they were waiting on was direction. Exodus 20, verse 1 through 17. I'm not going to read all of that, but if you don't know what that is, that's the 10 Commandments, Exodus 20. You can go back and read those later. But check out what John wrote, John chapter 1, verse 17. For the law, which is the commandments, the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. So what is he saying? Remember what Jesus said. Let's back up right there. Jesus said, I didn't come to do away with the law. I came to fulfill it. And through the fulfillment of the law, I'm bringing grace and truth. I have fulfilled the law that you could not do. You couldn't keep up with it. There's 613 laws, or 18, however you count it. But you couldn't do all these things, so I've come with grace and truth. See, John, what he's doing, he's bidding to us to come and see. There's something greater. There's something better. There's someone superior that is here. And then next in chapter 1, after he makes this case about Jesus, he then turns to another John. John turns to another John. There's 5 different Johns in the New Testament, so it's a little confusing. So John turns to another John, who I like to call JTB. John the Baptist, that's right, because I like nicknames. So JTB, that's his name. If you want to write that down, you can steal that. Just give me credit. No, I'm just kidding. Don't give me credit. JTB, right? JTB. And then JTB, John the Baptist, in verse 19 through 28, you can go back and read this afterwards. What he's doing, he's giving his testimony on why he came. He's saying, I came to make a way, which is fulfilling the prophecy of Jesus coming. He said, I'm the one who's coming to make a way for the Messiah. And he says, he's here. He's actually here. And I am not even worthy to tie that cat's shoes, is what's going on right now. Now today I want to look at the very last part of chapter 1. Chapter 1, John chapter 1, verse 35 through 51. The following day, this is JTB, by the way, John, JTB, was again standing with his 2 disciples. Jesus walked by. John looked at him and declared, look, there is the Lamb of God. When John's 2 disciples heard this, there was 2 disciples of John, JTB's disciples standing there. They followed Jesus. Pause for a second. I think this is an important point here. This wasn't even in my notes, but I think this is important. It's important to know that we are to follow Jesus, okay? Not man. And JTB, John the Baptist, he knew, they were with me, but they need to follow Jesus. And I hope you understand that when you come here and you worship and you get in a life group and all that, we are here to follow Jesus, okay? We are not here to, get entertained and lights and music and blah, 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 and all that stuff's great. I don't have a problem with that. But we are here for all of us to follow Jesus. That's the whole point. So when the 2 disciples heard this, they followed Jesus. Jesus looked around and saw them following. What do you seek? He asked them. What do you seek? Now, why is this important? It's a very important question that Jesus is asking. The reason why we need to pause here and look at this question is because these are the first words of Jesus recorded by John. It's important. Why? Because this is the question that Jesus asked every one of us. When you decide to follow him, he is going to ask you, what do you seek? And how you answer that determines everything else in your life. If you're just seeking a good moral example from Jesus, he'll give you that. If you're just seeking to be taught spiritual truths, he'll show you that. But let me tell you something. Your experience is going to be extremely limited. Why? Because you are seeking the wrong thing. If you fail to seek Jesus as a Savior for sin, you'll never experience what he came to provide. If you fail to seek Jesus as a Savior for your sin, you will never experience what he actually came to provide. In fact, Jesus gives us his mission statement. He says, I came to seek and save the lost. He seeks after us, comes after us. Why? To save us from what? Your sin. Not to just be a good teacher. Oh, he was a good teacher, but that's not it. That's not why he came. I ask you again, what do you seek? If you're seeking love from a good father, you'll find it. If you're seeking healing, you will find it. If you're seeking a way when it doesn't seem like there is a way, you'll find it. If you're seeking peace, you'll find it. If you're seeking joy, you'll find it. If you're seeking freedom, you'll find it. If you're seeking life, you'll find it. If you're seeking purpose, you'll find it in Jesus. What do you seek this morning? Jesus said, ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. What are you seeking? Verse 38 again. Jesus looked around, saw them following. He said, what do you seek? He asked them. They replied, Rabbi. And John makes sure we understood what that meant. He said, which means teacher. Where are you staying? Now, this is an interesting response. What do you seek? You think that you would just give an answer. But they answer with a question. Anybody ever done that before? You're probably an attorney if you did that, right? Where are you staying? Like, rabbi, they call him rabbi. I think it's interesting in this particular context. When they say rabbi here, they're saying, we're not really sure who you are, but I want to know more. Not sure. There's something different about you. John the Baptist made a very big comment there. We've been listening to him. We've heard a little bit about rabbi. We're going to call you that right now, teacher. Where are you staying at? Because I gotta have more. There's something different. I gotta check this out. Now I want you to notice this. Jesus does not condemn them for asking a question. So for those of you that got a question about Jesus, it's okay to ask Jesus a question. It's okay to ask about him. He didn't go, how dare you call me rabbi? For I am the Son of Man. Lightning strike, boom. He didn't get mad. Like he's like, yeah. Where are you staying? What did he say? He said this, come and see. What are you guys seeking? Where are you staying? Come and see. Come and see. Did Jesus say, okay, listen, I'm going to explain to you doctrine right now. Let me sit down and explain to you the ways of the Lord. Why don't you ask me your toughest questions and I'll try to answer. No. He said, come and see. I think some of us need to be doing some more come and see ministry in our life. I want you to see this, that Jesus gave them an invitation, not information. You see that? I think too many of us are trying to give people information and not an invitation to experience Jesus. Let me ask you this, when it comes to come and see ministry, who have you invited somewhere recently? Because there are people that you need to invite who are pre-Jesus. They ain't met him yet. And there's some people you need to invite who are post-Jesus. They've made a decision to follow him, but they're not deep enough in their walk. They want to go deeper, but they need someone like you in their life. When's the last time you've said to somebody, why don't you come to church with me? Why don't you come to this life group with me? Why don't you come to this men's event so we can smash a car? Why don't you come to this women's event? We'll have some amazing food. Why don't you go have coffee with me? Why don't we go have some J's? When's the last time you've done that? See, some of you in here today, somebody here needs to hear this. There are people in this room today, I know without a doubt, you don't understand that the life that you live is very appealing to other people. You think you have nothing to offer. You think your life is boring and you have nothing cool going on, whatever. But if you're following Jesus, you have something that they don't have. And that's compelling to someone who has never tasted and seen that the Lord is good. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being real. Listen. For the people out there who have not tasted and seen, they have not come to see Jesus, they don't know him on a personal level, they're starving for acceptance, truth, and hope. These are the three main things people are looking for that don't know Jesus. Acceptance, which you can invite them somewhere where they can understand that the Lord accepts you just the way that you are. Truth, because there's questions they have about life. Where are they going to get it at? Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And hope. Once they meet Jesus, they'll understand that Jesus has a plan and purpose for their life. So therefore, they have hope. This life they live right now is not it. There's more after this. People are starving for this. And you have the answer. It's Jesus. Now, some of you today go, well, I've been inviting this person to come to church. I've invited them 15,000 times, and they keep saying no. In fact, they walk the other way every time they see me. Okay, I didn't say go pester them, okay? Don't do that, okay? That doesn't work either. You can't force anybody in a relationship with Jesus, okay? But what you can do is the ministry of presence. What's that? There's some people that it's going to take time for you to build a relationship with before you can invite them somewhere, right? But you can sure be there, be hanging out with them. Let them see how you do things differently. Let them see when someone wrongs you, how you forgive them. Let them see when things go crazy in your life, you're calm and you're at peace. And then they'll go, wait a minute. You invited me to something last week, or 3 years ago. I think I might go now. And then all you didn't preach a sermon, you didn't lead a life group, you didn't have to do anything. You were just present and following Jesus. So they could come and see Jesus because they came and saw you. They saw Jesus in you. Let me ask you this. How did Jesus get to you? How did he get to you? When was the day? What happened that day when you finally said, I'm trying to do this on my own and I can't do this on my own? What led to that point? Because here's what I've learned of doing this for quite a number of years. I've learned this. There are many paths to Jesus, but Jesus is the only path to heaven. There are many backgrounds and people going through stuff. People have been addicted to drugs, or they've been addicted to a relationship. They've been addicted to alcohol, but they've been addicted to money. You can go to list. I can list things out all day long, and I don't have time for that, or we won't be able to get out and get more donuts, so I got to speed up. But don't judge somebody's path, right? It doesn't matter the path that they're on. And don't try to force them down your path, right? Just lead them to Jesus. Just say, come and see. I don't have all the answers, but I met a guy, and he is the way, the truth, and the life, and it changed me forever, right? All I know is this. I do know this. As I've examined why people accept Jesus almost every time, it's because it came through a relationship with someone who was following Jesus. Matthew 28, 19 and 20, the Great Commission. Go and make disciples. Right? Jesus didn't say, y'all sit at home and I'll make disciples. Okay? No, you go and you bring them. Come and see. Right? How do we make disciples? They come and see Jesus. That's the Great Commission. Okay? Now again, you notice Jesus didn't give them any information. He gave them an invitation. Let me ask you this. Is that enough for you today? Jesus is asking you, do you want a relationship with me today? Is that enough to say yes? I don't know all the answers. I don't know all the biblical truth. I don't know all that stuff yet. But the Lord is speaking to me today saying, you just come and see. Is that enough for you? Continuing on in chapter 1, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when they went with him to this place where they were staying, where Jesus was staying. And they remained with him the rest of the day. Now, pause here. We don't get any detail about what happened during the day, okay? So I don't know what happened that day. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They were with him the rest of the day, so some hours went by. I'm sure they had some discussion. Who knows what happened? I don't. But whatever happened was extremely impactful. Continue reading on. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, he was one of these men who heard what John said, and then he followed Jesus. So Andrew was there. Andrew he left to go find his brother, Simon, and told him, we have found the Messiah, which means Christ. So Andrew went to Simon. I don't know about you, but that had probably been a really tough sell for me to go get my brother and say, by the way, the Old Testament, the Torah and all this, is talking about this Messiah coming. He's here. Why don't you come check it out? Can you imagine trying to convince your brother to do that? I'm taking a little liberty here, but I'm thinking Simon was at a place where he's like, what do I got to lose here? I show up, if he's the man, well, I just met the Messiah. It's good. I show up and he's not. I wasted an afternoon. So what? I go back to my job the next day. Then Andrew brought Simon to meet Jesus. Looking intently at Simon. Intently. Some people read right past that. Jesus looked intently at Simon, and he said, your name is Simon, son of John, but you will be called Cephas, which means Peter. So the most impactful thing that John remembers about this, not as anything that happened that afternoon, he remembers that Jesus looked at him intently. That was so important. In fact, if you look at the translation there, the word that better to be used would be beheld. He was beheld. He didn't just glance at Simon. He was focused on him. There was purpose behind the look that Jesus gave to him. Why? Because Jesus already knew Peter. He already knew his past. He knew his present. He knew his future. He knew the mistakes he was going to make. He knew the denial that was going to come. But he also knew the man he was going to become. He also knew the upside-down crucifixion that was going to happen to him. He already knew. And so sometimes Jesus will speak to us where you're at, but he'll speak into your future and say, that's where you are, but this is where you're going to be. You are this, but you will be this. You are Simon, but you will be Peter, the rock. He's letting Peter know. He's letting Simon know in this moment. There is a transformation that's happening right now. And so to you and I today, he's speaking to us through this you were here, and yet you're going to be this, that this is why he came. Jesus came for transformation of hearts. You are broken, but you will be healed. You were lost, but you will be found. That's what he's talking about. Jesus promises a new identity. What Jesus is not saying is, I'm just going to tinker under the hood with your engine. He's, no, I'm going to take the engine out and put a new engine in. That's what he's talking about. One more observation. We have Andrew here. In this particular story, Andrew's mentioned. He was one of the 12 disciples, but we don't have a lot of information about Andrew. He's not really talked about a whole lot. He didn't write any of the books of the Bible. He's only mentioned about 3 more times in the New Testament that we see. We see that Andrew brings a little boy with the lunch to Jesus, and Jesus multiplies the lunch. He brings some Gentiles that are seeking to meet Jesus. He brings them to them. I don't know if you see a commonality with Andrew. He brings people to Jesus. He's always bringing people to Jesus. Is he a worship leader? No, I don't know. He probably couldn't sing a note. I have no idea. Could he play an instrument? I don't know. Does he know anything about computers? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. Is he a great speaker? Probably not. We don't know, but I do know this. He brought people to Jesus. I will say this. A true disciple is someone who is not content with going to heaven alone. A true disciple, someone who's really following Jesus. You cannot sleep well at night knowing there's other people that need to know Jesus. And I can't stop until they know. In fact, I think we all need to be part of the Andrew ministry team where we bring people to come and see Jesus. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, come, follow me. Philip was from Bethsaida, Andrew and Peter's hometown. Now this is the power of testimony, because we'd have to conclude the reason why John included this was that Philip knew Andrew and Peter. And they probably talked about Jesus to him. And when Jesus came around, he was like, oh, that's the guy they've been talking about. I will say this. Jesus will always find a genuine seeker. If you are genuinely seeking him, he will find you every time. Philip went to look for Nathanael, and he told him, "We have found the very person Moses and the prophets wrote about. His name is Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." Now Philip understood Jesus was the Word became flesh. He understood this. "Nazareth," exclaimed Nathanael. "Can anything good come from Nazareth? Anything?" You notice Nate's hang-up is location. You see that? But it made sense because Nathanael would have known the Torah. He would have understood Isaiah. He would have read the prophets. He would have known that the Messiah is supposed to come from Bethlehem. He's going to be born in Bethlehem. Nazareth? What? Nazareth is like a truck stop. Nothing against truck stops, okay? Nothing against them. We need them. I'm just saying we're talking about the Son of God coming. Can anything? What Nate is saying to Phil is this: bro, you and I know the Messiah is going to be born in Bethlehem. Why are you saying this to me from this person from Nazareth? Check this out. Philip said this: "Come and see for yourself." I want you to notice something. Paul's right here. Philip didn't try to explain it to him. I don't know about you, but there's some things with Jesus I just can't explain to people. I'm just like, I don't know. But you just got to come and see. Like, you just got to come and see. Just trust me. Because when you meet him, it'll all make sense to you. But right now, I can't put it in words. I don't know. And so sometimes if you get asked a theological question you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know. In fact, it's worse if you try to act like you know the answer and you're like, well, I think it's in this one book. I'm not real sure, but I think Jesus said this, and you're not real sure, and you misquote Jesus, and the next thing you know, they're never going to come back again, right? By the way, what Philip said, he said, come and see. That's exactly what Jesus said to the first two, remember? They're just following Jesus. Jesus said, come and see. We say, come and see. Come and see. As they approached, Jesus said, now here is a genuine son of Israel, a man of complete integrity. Now remember, we are eavesdropping on a conversation, and the translation here is not exact. This Israelite of complete integrity, what Jesus is saying. What he's basically saying is this is not Jacob. Those of you that know your Old Testament back in Genesis, Jacob was a crafty guy. We'll put it that way. Not the most honest guy on the planet. In Genesis 32, we see that he's wrestling with God. He's wrestling with Jesus. And then his name gets changed. God changes his name from Jacob to Israel. So what Jesus is saying is you are a true Israelite. You're not pretending. You're the real deal. I know you, is what Jesus is saying. How do you know about me? Nathanael asked. He's like, whoa. How in the world do you know me? Because I sure don't know you. Jesus replied, I could see you under the fig tree before Philip found you. Now, fig tree, this would have been a common place for people to study the Torah, study Scripture, and pray. Now, there's many theories here also on what exactly Jesus was saying here. And I could go on and on about what different theories think, but I do know this, that whatever Jesus said in that, it meant something very strong to Nathanael. Maybe Nathanael had heard some things about Jesus. Maybe Nathanael's sitting there and he's connecting dots. So I had this conversation with Philip. Wait a minute, I've heard this. This is the guy. How did he know me? I felt like he knew me. Something is happening here. And maybe it's just being in the presence of Jesus opened his eyes. Because then Nathanael exclaimed, Rabbi, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel. And Jesus asked him, do you believe this just because I told you I'd seen you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than this. Then he said, I tell you the truth. You will see all of heaven open and the angels of God going up and down on the Son of Man, the one who is the stairway between heaven and earth. What is Jesus referring to here? Those of you that know Genesis, you'll go back to Genesis 28. Jacob is taking a nap. He falls asleep, and he has this vision. And this vision is of like a ladder that's going to heaven, and there's angels coming up and down this ladder. And as we go a little bit further on, we find out that the translation here, what he's trying to say, what we know of that prophecy then of this ladder, is that God's work on earth was going to come through Israel. His work is going to come through Israel, the nation of Israel. What Jesus is saying in this moment to Nathanael, because he knew Nathanael knew that, what he's saying is God's work from this point forward is going to come through me, because I'm the Messiah. Something new is happening. It was supposed to go through the Israelites, but now I've come. The Messiah is here, the Son of God. And God's work, his finished work, will now happen through me. He's making a theological statement to Nathanael and all that could listen. He's saying your religious system that you've had has failed, and I will never fail. He's saying if you will come and see, if you'll just come and see, if you'll just come and see, if you'll just come and see. And for all of us, we have to come and see. And if you come and see, you will find a God who is a good father that loves his children. If you come and see, you will find forgiveness. You will find mercy. You will find love. You will find joy. You will find transformation. If you come and see, you'll find a rebuilder, a redeemer, a ruler, a restorer, an advocate, an architect. You'll find wisdom. You'll find the good shepherd. You'll find a burden bearer. You'll find a watchman, a miracle worker, a justifier, a sanctifier, a comforter. You'll find the fruit of the Spirit. You'll find completeness. You'll find a mediator. You'll find hope. You'll find perfection. You'll find power. You'll find purpose. You'll find the cornerstone. You'll find the Alpha and the Omega, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. You will find the unchanged, unmoved, undefeated God of all things.